Hey everybody, I'm Harlan Cohn, and this is another college conversation. Tonight, I'm talking to four incredible undergraduate students at Roosevelt University in Chicago. Roosevelt is in the heart of the city, and we have incredible panelists with big hearts. I like the tie. That was a good tie-in, Adolfo, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, with big hearts and a lot of love for helping. And I'm so grateful to have the chance to be with all of you, with Kennedy and Rochelle and Jalen and Adolfo. Welcome to this college conversation. Kennedy, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing really well. How are you doing tonight?
You know, I'm always nervous before I do these because it's like I just want to get it right. And I know it's like no matter what, it's going to be right. But I'm like probably a 7 because I'm nervous, and I'll feel a little bit better afterwards. I think we'll have a great conversation on a scale of 1 to 10. Adolfo, how are you tonight?
I'm about an 8, 9. Doing good.
Dude, that's high.
Yeah.
Are you always so high on the
Well,
scale?
well, I'm high right this moment right now. I just run out, do the lawn, have 3 dogs to take care of, and
Yeah,
we're just getting ready to do schoolwork. And then I just jumped on here to talk to you, Harlan. So
nice. You got
thanks
the
for
dog.
having me. Thanks
Oh,
for having me.
that's great. That's exciting. Rochelle, how you doing on a 1 to 10?
I want to say 7 or 8 range.
7 or 8. Wow,
Yeah.
everybody's really happy today. What's the best thing that happened to you today?
Well, I went to class. Got up and I took the trash out. It was kind of a boring day, except for class.
So, Rochelle, I love your life because you're a 7 or 8 and you went to class and took the trash out. Like, that's all it takes for you. It's like, your life is so, like, you just love life so much that trash and school put you at 7 or 8. I bet ice cream or something would put you in a 9.
Oh, yes.
Right. And then, I mean, that's beautiful. You're a pretty positive person?
For the most part, yes, I believe so.
You got good energy. Jalen, on a scale of 1 to 10, how you doing today?
I'm a 10.
10. I've never had someone be a 10 before. You're a legit 10. How are you a 10?
Because I have to, stay positive, have a good mindset for me to do this interview.
That's amazing. Well, it's good. I love the energy. Kenny, I don't think I ever got a number because I never asked you for your number.
You did not ask for a number. I would say about 7 or 8. I'm a little nervous too, but I always am before recorded things.
Yeah. Well, we can pretend it's not recorded and then get you up to an 8 or 9 and just have fun, because that's what this is about. Because I love doing these because I know there's someone out there who maybe wants to go to Roosevelt, maybe never heard of Roosevelt, maybe is just coming across this random video at some weird part of their life, and all of a sudden they get to see all of you. So the joy is to be able to share your life experiences, your dreams, with people who maybe have similar dreams or might discover something they didn't know before. So that's what's so exciting. Dreams. I'm curious to know your dreams. Rochelle, let's start with you and your dream. What's your big career dream, and then like a big life experience dream?
My big career dream, since I am in the nursing program, I want to finish nursing school. And I think my ultimate goal is I want to get a doctorate of nursing practice. And as far as like personal, I just want to get out and travel and be a little adventurous.
That sounds like fun. Where do you want to travel?
I have places in mind, but I feel like just setting like certain places that I want to travel, I'm just like limiting myself. So I like to keep an open mind about it. There's places I want to go to in Europe, around the States, New York. I've never been to New York. I would love to go to New York.
Yeah, that'd be great. What about specific European cities?
So I don't have any particular cities. I know I would like to explore multiple cities in maybe France, Spain, United Kingdom, Ireland, maybe.
Yeah, I love getting specific. And this is where I get a little annoying because, my goal is to hear, like, maybe you're going to say Guatemala. And the thing is, I know someone who runs a nursing program, and every year they go to Guatemala and they do this incredible service trip. So, just putting it out there in the universe, I think, is exciting, because as a nurse, there are so many opportunities to travel and be of service and still get like a little bit of beach time, right?
Yes.
Yeah, right. Like that's the thing, but that's exciting. So you'll do all that, right?
Yes, I hope so.
What would stop you, Rochelle?
Myself.
So you're your worst enemy.
Yes.
Ooh, this is
At
good.
times.
Oh, good. You know what, Rochelle? I'm going to ask you one more question. What is your most self-destructive, self-limiting belief?
I guess for me, it's something along the lines of procrastination. I am a terrible procrastinator. And then it's self-destructive belief because I guess it's something that I continue to do. And I think, oh, I do better when I procrastinate, like under pressure to do things, which sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. But that's something that I need to kind of work on.
Right.
Like personally.
But you always get it done, right?
I always get it done, but I don't enjoy the stress.
It's interesting. I think some people need to work under stress. Like sometimes, I know that's one of the tactics that people will use to focus or hyper focus is to make it so they have to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So, procrastinating can be bad, but it can also be, powerful for those procrastinators out there. Because I'll procrastinate occasionally, but interesting. All right, well, good. Well, Adolfo, I'm really interested to know about you and your professional dream and your personal dream.
Well, my professional dream is actually make it to that graduation day and make it to the goal of becoming a nurse because they're my heroes. I'm always around them most of my life. I work with them and they do above and beyond. And I would love to reach that goal to be one of them. And maybe personal goal. I mean, I'd like to maybe reach that goal and then go somewhere and maybe leave Chicago. I've been here my whole life and maybe look someplace that I would love to move to, warm, and maybe live the rest of my life, the next half of my life with my career and doing what I want, being where I want to be, and just living with my dogs and my wife and just being happy.
Is there a particular city that you would
Actually, my first goal is to try to move to Hawaii.
Now, are there a lot of nursing opportunities in Hawaii?
There are, but I think it would probably be better to maybe be, I think I'm going to try to get my experience to be a travel nurse and maybe do some contracts if I can do contracts out in Hawaii to see how it is.
Just so other people can understand, people who want to go into nursing, what is a travel nurse?
Travel nurses, once you get the experience and you can do travel to look to different states or United States. I think I don't know out of the country, but here in the States, you can do, I think the contract's like a 3-month contract and work at different hospitals in different states and with your experience and see if you like it and help them because they're shorthanded. That's what these travel nurses do. They go to places that need help. There's a very high demand for these travel nurses in all different departments.
Nice. And then is your wife up for this?
Yeah, actually, my wife is looking into it now. She's an MRI, CT, and X-ray tech. So she's thinking about looking into traveling also. So maybe we can do it together.
Oh, that's so exciting. So you're living your dream.
I'm almost halfway there. Just getting through school is the most important right now.
Is it hard?
Yeah, it's rough. I actually got knocked down and I had to dust myself off and got a second chance with the program director here at Roosevelt. Cynthia gave me a chance to come back because I was struggling. I'm a transferring in student from another college. So, and now that I made my priorities and set my goals and my time management, I think I have the positive to make it to the finish line.
I want to learn about the challenge, and it's interesting because you have this incredible drive. I can feel it, and you can see this. I can see your goal. I can see your dream. But what happened when you found yourself struggling?
It was a point to where I was actually in another school. I was actually working full-time and going to school full-time. And this was for about 2 years straight. And I didn't have time for anything and no sleep, just work and school. And it eventually took its toll. And I think I got burned out right towards the end. And by the time I was trying to pull myself out of it, it was kind of too late. So I had to take a break and refocus on my time management and looked around to apply to other schools to start over again. And fortunately, Roosevelt University gave me a chance. And now I have the drive and the willpower to see it through this time.
it also sounds like you have someone in your corner who's really helping you. Who is that? Because you mentioned that you met with someone and
Oh, the program director, Cynthia Gonzalez from Roosevelt University. She saw the drive and my will to keep going, and she gave me a second chance. So I want to prove to myself first, and then to help show her that I can make it.
that's awesome. I mean, who doesn't want to root for you? You know, I mean,
Thanks.
let me ask you this, and I'm going to get to everybody else as well, but what would stop you, Adolfo?
Losing focus. And like Rochelle says, sometimes I think I'm also kind of a procrastinator, which I'm trying to get out of. But sometimes it's funny because I'm really good when it's under pressure, when it's critical, especially what I do in the OR. I mean, when it's critical, I can move and focus and multitask, and trying to bring that to my education wise. I have some good points, but the procrastination is kind of I want to get away from.
That is such a hard thing to do. And I think it's something a lot of people struggle with. And let me ask you this, might be a personal question, but are you a traditional student? Are you 19 or 20?
No, actually, if I may not look it, but I'm just past my 50th year, my birthday.
You look incredibly youthful. You have a really youthful way about you, and just what you're doing and how you're doing it and how you don't stop is inspiring and awesome. And Roosevelt has been a good community. You've felt supported.
Oh yeah. Just ever since I walked in there and met the people around me, nothing but support, and it makes me feel good. And then the more positive you feel, the more things you can accomplish. And I have Rochelle in my corner, and I'm in her corner, so we can help each other and reach our goals.
That's great. Actually, and I think the way that we're looking at each other, you actually are in corners. So, not only are you, metaphorically in each other's corner, I think tonight everybody's in their corner. We're all in each other's corner, I would say.
Sure.
Right? Yeah, which is perfect. So, Kennedy, I would like to know your dream, your professional dream, and then I'd also like to know your personal dream.
It's kind of funny because I'd say my dream has changed a lot over the years. So for a long time, my professional dream was to go to medical school, be a doctor, and, have that kind of title that's always been pushed on me as a gifted child, I guess. But as I came to Roosevelt and really started taking my classes, I realized that wasn't necessarily my dream anymore. It was more everyone else's dream for me. So I've really found that research has been my passion. So I would love to be able to hopefully get my PhD and just do research full time and help contribute to the growing world of knowledge in the science field.
Oh, that's exciting. So you've been an achiever. People have wanted you and, showered praise on you.
Yeah, and it almost put a lot of pressure on me to be successful, which became problematic because when I began to struggle, it kind of made my mental health tank quite a bit because I was always that straight A, top of my class student. So once I entered college and school got really hard, and then I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life anymore, it got really scary for a bit, just trying to figure out, am I still successful? What does success mean for me? What do I want to do? So that was a really big struggle for me this past year.
So this is a recent struggle.
Yes, I would definitely say so. I think just recently, I've finally kind of settled and realized what makes me happy.
That must feel good.
It definitely does.
So how did you get to a place where you finally decided that life was about you and not other people and other things?
I still struggle with it, honestly. I come from a single parent home, and I was always the one who was going to make it out in a sense because I'm a first generation student. So single parent, first generation, I always kind of lived to make everyone else proud. But I think being an adult, I just turned 20 and I kind of actually just a few days ago, and I just kind of had this realization over this past year that I have myself for the rest of my life and I have to live for myself. And I got a really amazing opportunity to do research with one of my professors this summer. And doing that has really solidified for me that that's my dream and that's what I want to do because I love coming into the lab every day. I love looking forward to what we're doing. Even if we have a problem, I love troubleshooting. I love figuring out what I want to do. And I think that I just had that moment of like, oh, this is where I'm meant to be.
That's awesome. I'm excited to learn how you get there because I think there's so many people who aren't there. And the other thing is you're there today, but in a year or two, there could be something else. I think that, how many of you are first generation students here? Just so I can get a sense, just by a show of hands. So everyone but Rochelle, right? Which is exciting. That piece of your successes and your struggles aren't just your own. They are your families and everybody who sacrificed to get you here. Is that accurate?
I would definitely say so for myself. Yeah.
So when you let yourself down, you're letting everybody else down.
Yes. And that was a big thing I struggled with, especially in the fall, because I felt myself slipping in a few things. Classes got hard because college is hard. And I think a lot of people, especially in my circumstance where high school was easy for me, once I got into college and the courses were actually challenging because they should be, school shouldn't always be a walk in the park. I think I kind of had that moment of, oh crap, like this is real and I don't know what to do about it.
Yeah. So for the first time you failed something, or do you get like a D
Yeah.
or F?
Oh, I failed quite a few things actually.
That's great. I mean, it's great that you're still here and you're going to,
Yeah.
do this amazing work, and failing's part of it. But when you aren't someone who's failed in the past in high school, it is a gut wrenching feeling to all of a sudden fail and then question yourself. So for anybody who's like a super high achiever, you can get the wind knocked out of you, right, Kennedy?
I definitely did. In fact, I almost dropped out. I straight up got to the point where I was like, maybe I'm just not meant to do this. Maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe I'm not smart enough.
Yeah. And you realized you are good enough.
Yeah. I got there eventually. I had a lot of support with my peers and my professors.
Cool. All right. Well, I'm going to definitely revisit the time you were contemplating giving up, because I think everybody gets there. Like, I think that's just part of it. I mean, Adolfo, you just shared how you were overwhelmed with work and your schoolwork, and you had to stop. And did you think you were going to start again after you stopped?
I made it a goal that I wasn't going to quit, that I was going to go back eventually. Yeah. Because there's so many, though there's a lot of positives, there's a lot of negativity around you too. A lot of people would say, oh, once you quit, you're never going back. Mm-hmm. And they would say those things around you and make you feel, but I knew that I somehow would make it back, because I ain't wasting my mind and my education on, all down the drain. I love learning. I love being a student. Even this old, I'm still blooming. I'm getting better at times. So
you're not even that old.
I don't feel that old.
Nah, you're young. You got lots going on and lots more to give. And of course, Jalen, I would love to know about your professional dream and your personal dream.
My professional dream is to be a doctor. I'm not sure what kind of doctor yet, but for sure a doctor. I do come from an immigrant father. He was born in Mexico, and my mother, she was born in Chicago, Illinois, in the northwest side of Chicago. But my mom married my dad when she was 14, and my dad was 17. So they married very, very young, and they're both Mexican. My dad was born in Michoacan, Mexico, in a small ranch called Soledad. So they basically raised us here. Belmont Cragen is where I live. And I remember in first grade, I honestly never had like a good grades, like growing up, not even in high school. I think it was until college. But when I was in first grade, I actually got bullied a lot. And I've always held that like with me. I was bullied because my mom cut my hair like a boy. So everyone would call me a boy, no one wanted to play with me, but I identified as a girl. Anyway, so I feel like that story to me, like will always resonate and always like be with me, because when I imagine myself, like that's like who I imagine. And I remember in kindergarten, my teacher would just play with me, and then we'll play teachers. And then like throughout my entire life, I wanted to be a teacher. So I got into, I think, high school. Yes, until high school, I decided to take an internship, a medical internship with Rush University Medical Center. But before that, I was actually part of a pre-med program with the University of Illinois at Chicago, so UIC. It was called Medicina Academy Apprentice Program, and it was for a lot of brown and Black students that wanted to be in the medical field. And to me, that was, oh my God, that was like the most precious time of my life, because that was the first time I saw medical students that looked like me, medical students that had the same last name as me. And it was just extremely inspiring. And I remember telling my dad and my mom, like, there's people that look like us out there, and they are in white coats, and they're, they're going to be doctors and be surgeons. And one day, hopefully, they can find cures for so many different diseases. So that was where I was in high school. But my first high school was Prosser Career Academy, also northwest side of Chicago. It wasn't one of the extremely safest high schools, but honestly, every high school is different and every high school has its flaws. But it was a great school, great academic school. But then I transferred to DeVry University Advantage Academy, and that is where I decided to get my associates and my high school diploma at the same time. The associates was in network systems and administration. It was about computers, a bunch of technology, but I wasn't interested in that. I just wanted to be a doctor, because when I was in junior high school, I took this internship with Rush. So ever since then, I wanted to just be a doctor. But I took it because I decided that it'll be just easier for me to take a bunch of my pre-brac college classes at DeVry to just get that over with. And honestly, my parents were paying so much money for my older sister, who was currently in college. And she's like my idol. She inspired me so much. But they were paying a lot of money. And I know my dad was working 7 days a week, 12, 14-hour shifts in a factory. That breaks my heart. And I don't want to tear up, but that broke my heart because I never really saw my dad. But the thing is, like, it's not because my dad wasn't alive. It was because my dad was always working. So I just wanted my dad to be with me, which is why I decided to make the decisions to put the extra pressure on myself and take college classes earlier. I decided to then go to Roosevelt, and I did get a scholarship with them, and then a private scholarship that, again, it was a scholarship that basically allowed me to be who I am and has supported me immensely throughout my pre-med journey. But Roosevelt has opened so many doors to my future, and it will continue to open so many doors. And that is because Roosevelt really tries to help you in all aspects and will always help you, like, establish something or be there for you if they need you, if actually you feel like you'll impact the community. So yeah, I feel like overall my goal is to continue bringing more Latinx, Black and Brown students, pre-med students that want to be in this medical field, like, make sure their dreams come true, which is why I want to apply to MD MBA programs. MBA part is basically just for me to understand why in the world are people that look like me do not have free access to healthcare or have any access to healthcare. Like, what business side of the healthcare system does not allow that? So that's what I pretty much want to do. But I guess one of my personal goals, work as a doctor. And then when I retire, I want to go back. I want to go to the ranch where my dad was born. It's called Soledad, Michoacan. So right there, I want to build a house and open up my own nonprofit clinic and just be the doctor for the ranch there. And yeah, like, retire until I die there. Pretty much that's my overall personal goal.
That's an amazing story. And it was interesting because I was going to ask you a question about your mom and dad, but then you said you can't talk about your dad. So,
no, I can't. I can't talk about my boyfriend that much.
Oh, you can't talk about your boyfriend. Okay, yeah, we won't talk about your boyfriend. But you mentioned that your mom and dad, how old were your parents when they got married?
My dad was 17, my mom was 14.
And did they get married here, or did they get married in another place?
Yes, they got married here in Chicago, and they lived on the northwest side of Chicago.
So they got married in Chicago, and then they lived in the northwest side. And this is a personal question: are they still together?
Yes, they are. They're still together. I think it was last Sunday. They're 27 years married. So my dad's 45 and my mom's 41. She never went to high school. She never stepped high school. So since she was unemployed from COVID, I guess the government, I'm pretty sure the government allowed them to have access for college or for classes. So that's what she's doing now. And she's going for her bachelor's.
Wow. So when you were growing up, you said you were in a not so safe environment, your high school.
Yes.
So, what was that like? And how does someone who's in an environment that isn't, safe, where they can learn, how do you stay in school? How do you stay focused?
Well, you have to understand that it's not your fault that you grew up to be brown or disadvantaged or in this community, right? I understand from a young age, my dad taught us a lot about sacrifice and a lot about hard work and our culture. If you really want to make it in this country as a brown person, you really have to go through some things that the dominant culture doesn't have to go through that much. But my first years of high school, there was fights occasionally. and there was certain inappropriate situations going on. And to that, I wasn't so affected by it, but I was seeing the differences between the students that did focus in school and the ones that didn't focus in school. And sometimes I would even see like how there is certain kind of students, I don't know, I think it's called IB, like the honor students.
Yeah.
Like they were supported a lot more than regular students. And I was a regular student the first year of my high school. I was in all regulars, and I was with the students that, struggled in school, the students that needed that extra push, not because of academics, but they needed someone to really push them because maybe at home they were having a hard time. As growing up as a Latina, as a Mexican household, we go through certain situations that are probably not like the best to talk about or appropriate to talk about here, but we see things and we hear things, and it's not always the safest. So maybe they were going through similar situations as I was, or other people of color. And I guess the school, I feel like, just needed to push to be the support system for those students. So then that's when I transferred out to DeVry. But again, I did transfer out to DeVry because I wanted those extra credits for my college career.
And the extra credits, was it like a IB program? Was it an AP program for other people who want to try and save that money, so that they can get some of their prerequisites out of the way? Explain how that works.
Yes. So DeVry University Advantage Academy, they do offer the IB AP credits in high school. So my mornings were high school, and then my afternoons of my day were college classes. And I was taking network systems and administration. That was my major as an associate. So it was all my English classes, regular classes that you'll take just to graduate from college, like those classes you need to take, plus the major classes, so your specific major class. And I met a bunch of really very nice, very supportive professors there too.
Yeah, that's great. So you can knock off some of those credits. So at Roosevelt, how many years will it take you to complete your undergrad degree?
So I started 2019, and I'm finishing this December 2021. So that's about 2.5 years.
So you're saving a year and a half of tuition and all the other fees that go along.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's wonderful. That's great. Well, thanks for sharing all that. And I want to learn more about your culture and just how you found your identity, and or how you found a connection with people who are from similar backgrounds. Growing up, you didn't see anybody who looked like you, who were doctors and were professionals. I'm fascinated by that because, when you went to the doctor or within your community, weren't there some people who you could see as heroes or people you aspired to be?
I actually grew up when my grandfather, he had cancer and he had diabetes. But throughout appointments and throughout my father's doctor appointments and my mother's doctor appointments, I was there to interpret for my mother and my father. Not so much for my mother because she knew a little bit of English since she was born here, but for my father, any government documents, any type of documents in English that were heavy language, I was supposed to know that by the age of 9. So it's a family matter in my hands at a very, very young age. Not just me, but my older sister too. So again, like my parents were new to the high school and what college was and what pre-med is and how to get into medical school and all of that. So I know that UIC, they were the first school that opened my eyes to see this world. So I feel like my actual drive for medicine was with them as soon as they took me to a cadaver lab. So we were there in the cadaver lab and we were seeing the cadavers in front of us. And there was a group of another 30 students that looked like me, same color hair. And we were there and we were touching human organs and human bodies and learning from medical students that look like us too. And from there, I feel like that was just a moment that I knew, yes, I can make it. It's not impossible. There's people that look like me that made it. Why can't I? So then when I saw that there was 40 business cards in front of me in a conference room, I took every single card, emailed all the doctors. Only one doctor allowed me to shadow them because, again, I was just a high schooler. So when I shadowed that doctor, she took me to a couple consults and to a conference room meeting. And in the moment of the conference room meeting, I met a doctor from Rush called Dr. April Sabota. And she was the only African-American doctor in the room. Like that was the only person of color in the room, along with me, but I was just a high schooler. And she held the white coat and she sat up straight and she was the doctor that I needed to be. I wanted to be like her. And as soon as the meeting ended, she came up to me, and that's not the doctor I was shadowing, but she came up to me and she asked me who was I and what was I doing there. I explained to her that I was in a job shadowing opportunity with Dr. Christina O'Donoghue. And from there, she gave me her business card with her number in the back. And she told me, if you ever need anything, like, please call me with anything at all. And that was a moment where that just truly will always stay with me, because the doors kept opening door after door after door after that moment. Because when you see someone that looks like you out there in that field, like, you truly believe that you're going to be that doctor too, that you truly believe you're going to make it out too.
The doctor from Rush, what's that doctor's name that said, anytime you need someone, I'm here for you?
Dr. April Sabota.
Have you reached out to Dr. Sabota?
Yes, I have.
And has Dr. Sabota helped you and given you good advice?
Yes, but I reached out to her about a month ago. And that was the first time I reached out to her, because I was pretty intimidated by her, but also life just wasn't giving me the chance to, since I was so busy with school and other things going on. But she did refer me to Dr. Alvarado. So that's a surgical oncologist I'm shadowing now.
Right. Great. I have one more question. I want to get to everybody's story. You had such great experiences at UIC and Rush. Why did you choose Roosevelt?
I chose Roosevelt because Roosevelt was pretty much the first school that I felt like I did belong there. It was just a feeling of intuition. As soon as the security guard asked, like, if I needed help with something, or as soon as I saw the first smile, like, that was something that pretty much resonated with me, because they were willing to always help and guide me and accept me for who I am. So yes, I chose Roosevelt just because of the way they are with the students.
Yeah, that's great. So it's exciting to have you all here, because, Jalen and Rochelle and Kennedy and Adolfo, I think one of the things that makes me so excited is to know that someone's going to see you. And Jalen, everything you've shared it's out there, I mean, it's out there, and that's the beauty of it. And I think for me, as like a Caucasian male growing up in the suburbs of Chicago, it's disheartening to think that as a child, you didn't see people who looked like you enough to know that you could live whatever experience you want to live. And what it does is it also inspires me to do more, I want to interview more people of color who can make it so crystal clear that you are all worthy and deserving of anything you want, because you all are. So thanks for the reminder. I mean, I think about it a lot, and that's one of the reasons that this brings me so much joy. But maybe you'll all make a pact that as we continue this journey in 10 years, maybe even in 5 years, let's check in again, right, Jalen? You want to do that? And Adolfo, we'll hear about where we'll check in from Hawaii. We'll work through the time change, and Rochelle as well, and Kennedy. So Rochelle, going back to you and how you got here, give me like a quick run through of just, what was your family like? How did you eventually get to Roosevelt? Just take me on that quick journey.
I'm not a first generation college student. I'm not even a second. My grandmother and my mother both graduated with PharmDs, so they were both pharmacists. My mother raised my brother and I. She's a single parent. Went through high school. I was also wanting to be a doctor while I was in high school, and I went through University of Illinois about the third year in, like junior year going into senior year, and I started volunteering at a hospital in the PACU. It was at that point that I found out that maybe pre-med, like going to medical school, was probably not for me. I don't think that I would enjoy it as much because I felt like I wanted to go the route of nursing, because I saw like what I saw in there, and then like in my experiences being an OB surgical tech, the nurses developed like a more personal relationship with their patients more so than doctors. And that's really what I wanted. And I felt like they have like a greater impact on their patients and their health because they have those relationships with them. So that's kind of, I wanted to be able to impact and then also be able to help my patients. And also I want to be a person that looks like the patients that I'm treating. That was also a huge part of it as well.
When it came to nursing, why Roosevelt?
Roosevelt was my number one because I already did the Robert Morris Surgical Tech program. I had a lot of the credits that were going to transfer over, and then the atmosphere. Coming from University of Illinois, it's a big school where you're in lecture halls with 300, 400, or 500 people, and then coming into a classroom where it's maybe at most 25, maybe 30 people. It's just completely different. And I felt like I did a lot better and I learned a lot more because I wasn't afraid to ask questions or ask for help when I needed to. The professors were more accessible. Like at University of Illinois, no professor would give me their phone number to like text them or send them or call them and ask them, hey, I'm struggling with this. I was wondering if we can meet up and we can work on this. So I didn't have that at University of Illinois. So that's something that I really liked at Robert Morris. And I know that with the integration, it's a lot of the same professors. And I felt like it would be the same atmosphere and then the same, closeness with the professors and the students.
What has been your hardest, most challenging nursing class at Roosevelt? And how were you able to get through it?
I'm only going into my second year, so we've only taken a couple nursing classes. So I don't want to say that any of them right now have been challenging as opposed to time consuming. And the one class that I found was a challenge because it was a little bit time consuming was anatomy and physiology because it involves the cadaver lab. And that can be, I had a little bit of like a head start with that because I went through the surgical tech program and we were required to do the cadaver lab with the surgical tech program. And it's the same professor. So I kind of knew what to expect, but I can imagine that that's very difficult for students who have not been in the cadaver lab. And then you're memorizing not just, the heart, the bone and the arm. It's like you're memorizing the mitral valve and the heart and this little landmarks and stuff on the bones. So I can see how that's challenging and time consuming. So I would say it would be that course. Like once I got it, I was fine, but I think that's the reason why.
Yeah. Adolfo, how did that course, how was that for you?
Actually, I have a credit for my anatomy, but actually in the fall, I'll be taking that cadaver class. So I will look forward to doing it. Actually, I look forward to it because I see them live every day. So now it's just be able to point out each and every muscle and bone and everything will probably help me get a step up and back in the OR so I can kind of impress the doctors to know where everything is.
So, Rochelle, you're going to be there for Adolfo, right?
I will. You have any questions? I'm your girl.
All right, I will, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, the teacher, Rochelle, you know how brutal this can be. I have one more question about graduating, doing your undergrad at U of I, then going into another program. You're a learner. You were originally thinking pre-med. And I think that's a question that a lot of people in nursing ask themselves. Do I want to go into nursing? Do I want to be a doctor? What is that decision-making process? Was that hard for you or was it pretty easy to figure it out?
I don't think it was that easy because the reason I was set on pre-med over anything else is because I probably had a misconception about what doctors actually do day in and day out. And the same goes for nurses. So I was basing like what I wanted to do as far as career off of that misconception. And it took being in that environment, volunteering and doing OB surgical tech work, working in a labor and delivery unit. It took having that experience and realizing that the pre-med route, going to medical school, that is not for me. I had the opportunity to shadow a couple of doctors while I was in high school. It was a little window, a little limited about what doctors do, but then they did kind of explain to me like what all these other doctors do, like in different specialties and all that. And I'm like, at the time I was like, this sounds kind of cool. I can do that. I went to school, everything was going okay. And then I went and did that volunteer work in the PACU. And I was seeing that the patients were coming from the OR. I would rarely see the doctors afterwards. I would always see the nurses and the techs. At that point, it took me going through this volunteer work and going through surgical tech and then actually working and just observing the different roles. And it took years for me to realize, that route was not for me, because even after I finished surgical tech and I was working in OB, I still wanted to go to medical school. But after working in OB for 2 years, after about 1 year, I was like, I need another path.
Does Roosevelt give you practical experience where you can get a taste of what it's like to actually do the things you're studying to do?
Yes. So we are actually going to be starting clinical rotations this fall. So we're supposed to be rotating through, med surge, the ED, probably like maybe ortho. I don't know for sure if they're going to be letting us into the OR. I know that we'll be doing OB. So we're going to be getting like some taste of like the main different specialties or areas that nurses work.
Yeah, that's great. I was doing an event and this one student said, they want to be a nurse. And I said, that's wonderful. It's exciting. And I said, do you know any nurses? And this person said, no. And I said, have you ever shadowed a nurse? And they said, no. And I said, well, how do you know you want to be a nurse?
Mm-hmm.
And they gave me a look like, why are you asking me this? And and I said, I was just curious, like, how do you know? And she said she wanted to be a nurse because it's a great job and there are lots of opportunities and people need nurses.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know if any of you have anything to say about that, but I think it's a really important piece of if somebody wants to go into nursing, it's wonderful, but I think the why part is really important. Would you agree with that?
Yes, because if the why is not there, if you don't love it, if you're not going to love it, you're not going to stick with it, I don't believe. And you're going to be miserable. And that's not just with nursing. I think that's just with any career, any path that you do. You have to either like it or at least be able to tolerate it.
Right. And know your why. And that's where, Jalen, you have a why, your story, your why story. I mean, you have yourself back on the ranch with your nonprofit clinic, helping serve people who really need care. And, I imagine that's going to always keep you on the path. And then Adolfo, you have your why of just, being around this and having had other careers. And this is your calling, right?
I think so.
Yeah, I think that's incredibly exciting. And Rochelle, you didn't figure this out for a while.
Yeah.
So I think that idea of being patient, for people who don't know, it's being patient, but it's putting yourself in situations where you can like it or not like it. Like, not liking it is scary, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Which brings me to Kennedy. Kennedy, and anybody's welcome to jump in at any time. Don't feel like you need to wait till someone's done. If you have something strong, if you agree with something or want to jump in, please do. So Kennedy, I'd love to get a sense of a little bit of your background, of just how you got here. And I know that you are part of the honors program, so I'm also really curious to hear about that honors program and how it kicked your butt a little bit, as you said. So, or you didn't say that, but I think you kind of
alluded to it.
Yeah. So we
Yeah.
can. I'm not putting words in your mouth. I guess I am, but so Kennedy, give me a little flavor. Help us to understand your journey and how you got to Roosevelt.
I think I kind of have a different path to Roosevelt than most people here. So I was in high school and I, similarly to how I did recently, kind of reached a point where I lost motivation for everything. My home life has been the best of what my mom could provide for me. I had some incredible opportunities and I'm not going to undermine everything she sacrificed to get me where I am. But I had a paternal figure in my life who decided to leave and decided to cause a lot of ruckus as he left. So for most of my life that I can remember, it's just been me, my mom, and my older sibling. Things have always been kind of rocky, especially when I had that pressure of being the one to make it out. And I reached a point my senior year where everything kind of collapsed. I was a pre-professional dancer. I realized I didn't like dance that much anymore. I had a longtime boyfriend, realized I didn't want to be with him anymore. And so everything just kind of crumbled during my senior year. And I wasn't even thinking about college. I mean, I was this honor roll National Honor Society student in high school, and all my friends were like so excited about applying to colleges, visiting colleges, and I was just kind of sitting there like, I didn't really have any motivation. But luckily my high school counselor, Andrew Franklin, I had a really good relationship with him. He provided a lot of support for me throughout the years, and he just kind of looked at me like, come on, kid, like you have all this potential and you're letting all of these things in your life kind of break you down. And he was actually the one who looked at me and said, and I quote, if you don't go to a school with research, you're going to go crazy. And so he was like, you're going to Roosevelt University. Here's a flyer. And I was like, okay, easy enough. I don't have to think. I don't have to make any decisions. And it wasn't really until I did a summer program called RISE, which is for first generation kind of underprivileged minority students to kind of get a taste of what Roosevelt's going to be. And that had some of the most incredible experiences I've ever had. I'm still friends with the people I met in that program. Those professors I met in that program are still my mentors to this day. And that was 2 years ago. It's going to be 3 years ago, I think now. Jeez. But it was in that moment where I truly realized I belonged here and that I belonged just learning, just never stopping learning. And it was around that time where I realized I didn't want to be a doctor anymore, because that was something my entire life I was like, I'm going to make my family proud. I'm going to be a doctor. I'm going to help people. And being in labs around that point, and I kind of had that moment of, wait a minute, am I really going to be happy doing this? And I started taking my classes, started going through, and I took chemistry. And I always loved chemistry in high school. And it was taking my general chemistry courses and meeting my chemistry professors. I was like, hold on, maybe I don't have to do this. And then my organic chemistry professor, Dr. O, one of the most incredible men I think I've ever met in my entire life. He really, really believed in me, and he really pushed me to work hard. And it was working with him and having class with him that truly made me realize, I think I want to work in a lab. Like, I don't think I want to be a doctor anymore. And another one of my professors, Professor Cordero, both of those professors were in my summer program. So I'd already known them for 2 years. They both really were like pushing me and encouraging me to take different opportunities. And it was from both of them that I kind of realized, oh, like I don't have to live this life that everyone else has kind of laid out for me. So that was a really nice moment of feeling like there were people in my corner saying, hey, what do you want to do? What's going to make you happy? So that was kind of my journey from high school to Roosevelt.
Yeah, that's awesome. Organic usually kicks people's butt. Like organic is one of those weed out classes, right?
Yes. And Jalen, I think, can also testify to that. We're both actually tutors for organic chemistry right now. If you told me 4 years ago that I'd be doing that, I'd call you crazy, because organic chemistry is one of those really incredibly hard classes. But like I said, Dr. O is such an incredible person, and he really went above and beyond to make sure I understood everything, that I felt heard, paid attention to. And I also had some incredible peer tutors. Having that support system, especially with a class like organic chemistry, means everything.
So tell me, when a student walks into tutoring and they're struggling in organic, what do their faces look like? What are the questions they're asking of themselves during that interaction? And also, like, how uncomfortable, how scared are they to ask for help?
Well, I will say that I have only been tutoring since COVID. We haven't had in-person tutoring. So I almost feel like it's a completely different experience having to ask for help online, because on one hand, it's more accessible. You can do it from home. You don't have to have your camera on. And in that sense, it's a bit more approachable, but it's also terrifying because you don't see that person you're working with. You're not in the room. You can't feel the energy. It's a completely different situation. But I've had moments where working with some of my students on exam corrections, I can hear them being like, oh, I got this wrong, and being so like embarrassed, like, oh, I got all of these problems wrong. I'm not smart. I'm not good enough. And I got a lot of problems wrong in organic chemistry. I really struggled too, but I think it's really all about understanding that it's supposed to be hard and that organic chemistry, even if you're not going into a chemistry based field, it's not necessarily about understanding organic chemistry. It's about being able to identify a problem and automatically knowing what the solution should be. It's like in a diagnosis where even though I'm not pre-med anymore, if you see a certain symptom in a patient, your mind is already going to different solutions, different tests you need to do, different ways to figure out what's going on. And I think that's a really good way of viewing organic chemistry, that it's not necessarily about being able to do a synthesis in a lab. It's great if that's what you want to do, but it's more about being able to have those thought processes and have that automatic reaction to seeing something.
Yeah, I've never had organic. I don't think I never will. It sounds frightening.
It is at first. It's definitely frightening. When you get that first exam, I think most of my friends have cried during an organic chemistry exam before. It's just something that happens.
So you're going to cry. Right.
And tears are okay. It's okay to be scared. It's okay to be intimidated, but it's what you do to work past that that matters. And I think getting help is the most important thing you can do. And it's okay to admit that you need help.
And Jalen, you're a tutor as well?
Yes, I am. I was a tutor before COVID, and now I'm a tutor with COVID going on.
So when you're tutoring students who are in organic and some of these other classes that have a reputation for just bringing you to your knees, how do you help console them and help them to know they're worthy?
So pre-COVID, I was able to actually talk to students face to face and see the students. But I was a student since Gen Chem 1 that was there every single day until 8 p.m. And then I would take the CT blue line home, very dark, and the pepper spray, and then I'll take a CT bus to my house. So it was like a 1 hour and a half commute. But I was in tutoring every single day because, again, like I have an older sister. I don't know if I mentioned already. She is an international medical student. She always told me, don't make the same mistakes I made. Go to tutoring. She didn't do so well during her undergrad. She didn't go to tutoring. She didn't even know what tutoring was. But she advised me to go to tutoring and ask her professors for help and be there. So I remember my first day of tutoring, my first day of me going to tutoring, I was extremely scared. I wasn't afraid or ashamed. I was like, I need help. Like, it's fine. It's not a big deal. So I went to tutoring, and there was sitting Roosevelt alumni, and she was the tutor for General Chemistry 1 and 2. Roosevelt impacted me so much. She also lived very near me. I think she lived like 4 blocks away. So we had some kind of like relationship connection, and it was just great. But she was a great tutor, very patient. And I took everything I learned from her for me to tutor Gen Chem 1 the following semester. So that was before COVID. And I remember crying in the tutoring room multiple times. I remember one of my best friends at the moment, she's still my best friend, but during the tutoring time that was before COVID, we were working on drawing Lewis structures. And she got the concept in 10 minutes. That's all it took her, 10 minutes to understand the concept. I was there for 2 hours sitting down, and I didn't know how to draw Lewis structures and to make the formal charge. It was just, I cried even more. But you know what? It's when I really stood back and I stopped comparing myself. And I said, you know what? I don't know what she has that I don't, but it's out of my control. I'm trying, I'm putting in the work. Like, something has to click. So then later on, like, I returned back that following Friday, and I was figuring it out in the board. It was just myself and one of my other best friends, Gaida. We were there doing practice problems in the board, and Dr. Anajal, Dr. O, Wakili also knows him. He's the organic chemistry professor, right? At the moment, I was a Gen Chem 1 student, and he saw me show up every day in person. And he saw that I was putting in the work, the hour. He turned and looked at me. He said, "You're almost done with the class." He's like, "Do you want to be a tutor for Gen Chem 1? And that to me was just, what? Like, I cannot be a tutor. Like, that's what I cannot be a tutor. It's like something that I probably can do. I can probably understand what I'm doing now. But this man, he looked at me and he really did believe in me. So that's when I just started my tutoring experience.
Amazing. So the advice is to go to tutoring every day, whether you knew the information or didn't, you would just go every day.
Yes, because I just started to become my safe place. I felt safe doing work there, and I just felt like I was at home, to be honest.
That's amazing. That's awesome advice. I mean, just to, and I sometimes will tell students, I'm like, just study in the tutoring center, like make that the place you go, because then if you have a question, you can always ask. But if you're not in the room, you can't ask a question. Would you agree with that?
I agree.
Yeah. Adolfo, have you taken advantage of any tutoring?
The only for maybe my math class that I had last semester, I had a couple of sessions with my tutor, but I know I'm going to be using it a lot more in the fall now once classes get harder.
Well, you've got Kennedy here who tutors, you've got Jalen who tutors, then you've got Rochelle who's been in the class that you're going to be going into, one of the most difficult ones. Did you realize you had this dream team here?
Oh yeah, now I'm realizing it right now. So I'm gonna have to start networking.
I mean, we'll keep you in touch, but like legit,
Definitely.
this is the this is the ticket, because I think everybody here wants you to be successful and reach your goal, right? Is that true?
Yeah, I want them to be successful too. So
Well, I think it's so cool that our paths have crossed, and all these people really want to help. Adolfo, I don't think I learned your story. I don't think we've heard it. If you can just give me maybe some bullet points of just, how did you arrive here, and what was that path?
it's kind of rough growing up. My parents split up when I was about 10. So I was kind of lost in a shuffle, going from place to place, from bouncing from back and forth with my mom and dad, and kind of had to grow up real quick. I think that's why I'm kind of look like a little child now. Sometimes I could be a kid and kind of still look young now. So I'm just living my childhood. So from there, I just started going, just getting working, going from working at UPS. And from there, my friend got me into the stock market. So I was working in the stock market for years, till 2008. And then companies merged, and they were letting people go. They wanted to keep me after they said they were going to let me go, but I decided I already made my decision to go to school for surgical technology, like Rochelle has, and it really interests me. So it was a totally different path, but something just intrigued me about it. And graduated in 2011, and been scrubbing ever since. And now I just, like I said, that the next step is to be a nurse, because I love them. They're all around me, and I love what they do, and I watch what they do, and I've been scrubbing for about almost 10 years now, and I've been around them, and I know what they do. I love it, and that's my next goal, and I want to be like them.
A surgical tech, for people who don't know what a surgical tech is, can you help us to understand?
You're a technician inside the OR operating room, and you set up the room for each surgical procedure, and you set up a sterile field with instruments and everything, all supplies that the doctor and his resident will need to perform the surgery. And your job is to keep that sterile, to keep everything around you sterile, make sure nothing contaminates it, nothing contaminates the body. And sometimes you have to help retract. Sometimes you have to help do more than what your job says to. I love it.
So when you're a surgical tech, you're in the OR during the entire procedure from start to finish?
Yes. Start to finish. And when you're done, housekeeping comes and cleans the room, and you set up for the next case. And you have to be fast. Sometimes it's only 20 minutes to set up the room again. It's great. And I love being under pressure. And I love, like I said, times get critical, and you have to move, and you have to move in unison with the doctor. And you have to know what he wants before he wants it. It takes a while, but I got to the point where I can tell what he needs next, and I already have it in my hand. And he just sometimes will be amazed that I already have it. And it makes it just nice when he gives you a good nod that he knows that you're doing a great job, and it just makes you feel good. And that patient care is the best. You got to take care of that patient. That's what you're there for.
That's amazing. So you're there. So when they're like, my knowledge of medical vocabulary is quite limited, but when they're calling for a scalpel, and they're calling for suction or a clamp or something, you're like a mind reader.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
You already know what they need next. Sometimes it just comes to you after a while.
Yeah. That's wonderful. So you did that since 2011, and then to go from surgical tech to a nurse, what more do you need to learn? Are there things you already know? Is it all new?
There's just a few things that you already know, but it's a whole new learning process. Somebody gave me good advice is like from surgical tech to nursing, you have to unlearn everything sometimes and relearn. I used to go to Chamberlain, and my struggle was I was already implanted with my knowledge of surgical technology, and I had to unlearn everything and relearn things as a nurse. So that was kind of a struggle. But I already have my template again now, and I have my second chance. So I know what to expect to move forward.
So for this go around, are you still working in addition to taking classes, or are you working less? How are you able to balance that time?
I'm working less now. I'm actually just part time. I wanted to make sure that, like I said, I was more on time management because that's what really got me in the last time. Because I did it 2 years straight and I got burned out. So now I have the time to study and I have the time to work just enough. And I'm relying more on learning my time management. So I have the time to study and focus and study because it's just going to get harder from now on. And I want to be ready for it. And I got Kennedy and Jalen to help with tutoring me, and Rochelle, of course, to help me along the way. So I feel positive, and I feel like said I'm at an 8. I'm going to keep feeling this way, stay as positive.
When it comes to meeting other students at Roosevelt and finding connection, has that been easy for you, Adolfo, or is that been a challenge?
Sometimes it's easy and sometimes it's a challenge. Sometimes you just actually connect with people in your classroom, or when you meet them, you just automatically connect. And then sometimes other ones are a little more standoffish, they're different personalities. So it takes a while for them to, feel up to you and you to them, and like you said, I look young, but sometimes, maybe the age difference. And so, but once we get to know each other, it's not that bad.
Yeah. I mean, you have life experience, which makes you, I think, that much more interesting. So anybody who is around students who don't look like them in terms of like the same age or, the differences are the things that I think make the whole college experience so unique and fascinating.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's great. It's great. It's a great experience. And it helps you actually, you can become a nurse because you'll be dealing with all different kinds of people. And they're going to be arguing with you and the way they're emotional. And when they're dealing with the loved one. And, and this helps you along the way. You meet new people and different personalities. And then you find which ones you connect to and ones you have to work harder to connect to. And that really helps you actually in the long run.
Yeah. I think nursing, and it seems like just all of you are in places where there's a lot of emotion. You have to have a pretty high EQ, I think, to connect and manage all the challenges. Kennedy, I want to know about the time where you were so uncomfortable, where you were questioning yourself and you almost gave up, right? So can you tell me about that really uncomfortable experience and how you got through it?
Yeah, so this was actually this past fall semester, fall of 2020. And I had a peer mentor at the time. And what she told me was basically the courses I was taking at that point were the hardest courses of my entire degree. That this was going to be the most difficult part. And then you'll be uphill from there. And she was not exaggerating. I was taking organic chemistry 1, calculus. I was taking an ecology class, and I'm in the honors program. So I was also taking an honors program course at the time. And calculus and organic chemistry just absolutely tore me apart. Calculus more so than organic chemistry because I hadn't taken a math class for quite a while. I tested out of most of my gen ed math classes. So this is the first time I was taking a more difficult math class in a while. And it just didn't click for me. And we were remote learning. So I didn't really connect with my professor. And it was really difficult for me to try to get help in that class because I feel like I didn't have a connection with my professor at the time. And it just wore me down. And my biology professor, Professor Cordero, could see it in me. And he made me actually stay after every single week, stay after class to just talk to me because he could tell something was going on because he knew me before I even started college, and I was, optimistic, bright, bubbly, super excited to learn. And I just reached a point where I wasn't excited to learn. Not that I didn't love what I was learning, but I felt like, I wasn't good enough. Something was wrong. Why couldn't I understand? Why wasn't I succeeding? And I admit now I probably should have advocated more for myself, but I think I did all that I could have done at the time because I was just so broken down and worn out. And I talked to my mom about it quite a lot. And I was like, I just want to drop out. Like, I don't want to do this anymore. I can't do this anymore. And I think it was the support from her and the support from meeting with Professor Cordero every week. I would, no joke, be smiling during class. The second everyone else left, it was just me and him on Zoom. I would just start sobbing and crying because I just didn't know what to do with myself. I never struggled in school before. So having that experience really destroyed me. But I think it was an important lesson for me because I had to learn how to be okay with not being perfect, as like self-centered as that sounds. Like I had to learn to be okay with not succeeding. And I had to learn. And if I was at a point where I was almost going to have to retake the course, but people have to retake classes all the time. And that's okay. I shouldn't see myself as less than because I might have had to retake a course. Quite literally, I didn't understand one of the concepts we were supposed to learn in the first week until I took the final. It was one of those situations where, and like, it's funny, but I really was so lost. But again, the support from my peers and never giving up. I would complain to my friends. I would cry to my professors. And as melodramatic as it sounds, just knowing that people were there to listen to me complain and to tell me that I still deserved to keep going was really what helped me through it.
And you're a tutor now.
And I am, yeah.
Like, that's
Funny how it
crazy.
works out. Yeah.
Right. You barely could get through the class, but now you've mastered the materials to the point that you can help others.
Yeah. And I think that's why I really wanted to become a tutor, because not that there wasn't a tutor for the course, but it didn't feel as approachable at the time. And so I kind of make it a point now to really reach out to my students and say, if you need anything, I don't care if you think it's stupid. I don't care if you think you got it, but you think it's a dumb question. Like, come to me, talk to me. And even if you just want to talk about the class, I'm always here, because I think really reaching out like that was something I could have used back then. So I aspire to try to do that now.
Well, if there's anybody who needs help, who needs some tutoring, you got Kennedy here, who really wants to help you, who knows what that's like. There's so many high achievers who get to college and they crumble. They didn't have to study that much in high school, and then they get to this next place and it's hard, and they question themselves. What's your message to those overachievers who just get knocked around and beat up a little bit?
First, I want to say I am you. I was you, and that it's okay to not be perfect, because your personality and your identity kind of rides on the fact that you're always perfect. It's okay to not be perfect. In fact, it makes your success that much more meaningful if you have to work a little bit harder for it. And don't be afraid to ask for help. Your professors are there for a reason. Your tutors are there for a reason. And most importantly, it's going to be okay. You can retake a class, you can fail a test, but you're still going to be there. You're still going to be trucking through and breathing. And that's all that matters.
When it comes to nursing and pre-med programs and medical programs, to graduate, do you think you can do it alone?
Absolutely not. I think you can try to. And some people, that's a lie, because some people can.
You think?
There are some people I've met where they've been able to do it alone, and I still question how they did it. But I think it's so much more, not that it's more meaningful, but you feel much more proud of yourself if you're able to make these meaningful connections along the way. You're able to connect with people, network, and have those relationships that are really going to last you the rest of your life.
Yeah. Rochelle, how are you when it comes to asking for help?
I used to be really bad at it. I was a suffer in silence type of person. I was that student also who, I don't want to say that I skated in high school, but I did pretty well. And then I got to college and just got knocked down a couple of pegs. And I didn't start asking for help until, I guess I was to the point where I was just overwhelmed and struggling so much. And I was also that person who it's close to the final and I'm still trying to learn stuff from the beginning of the semester. I had an advisor speak to me and then she reached out to me. I mentioned I wanted to have a meeting about something else. And I was talking about, because I wanted to quit also. I'm like, I don't know what to do. I'm really struggling in these courses. And then she just gave me all these resources. So, I mean, after that point, I'm more open. Like, definitely right now, if I need some help, I ask. Like, I don't even hesitate because I'm not trying to continue that pattern of waiting to get help or to ask for help. And then I know it's also a good skill or just a good thing to do, like, especially with me going into nursing, you're going to need help from other people. And you cannot just sit around and just hope that someone sees that you're struggling and hope that they come and help you. So it's just a skill that I realize that it's important and I need to do better at that.
Who is that advisor who helped you? Let's just give a little shout out.
My advisor from University of Illinois.
Oh, we don't want to give them a shout out. This is a Roosevelt conversation.
I know.
No, I'm just kidding. Give them a shout.
I had that advisor also, but then
give them a shout. So who is that U of I?
It was Allison, and then at Robert Morris, it was Sandy. I was in Sandy's office like every I would just come by to say hi.
Sandy who?
Sandy Grace.
Great. Right. Sandy's great. I just wanted to make sure we got her name out there. So how did Sandy help you, Rochelle?
She was the one that was helping me choose my courses. I came to her, like, I think a couple of times and like, hey, this class is a little difficult doing like surgical tech. So she would kind of just guide me, like, ask your professor. She's approachable and everything. So at first, I didn't get that impression from her, but then Sandy she just encouraged me to, get the help. She was a teacher for one of my courses. So, I had no problem with asking her for help. But she was always kind of like my go-to person. Besides, originally she was my go-to person, but then she encouraged me, ask your professors.
Yeah.
It was a new, coming from a different school and then to this school where the environment is completely different. And where I didn't really ask for help, she just was like, what, Rochelle, ask for help. They're approachable. They don't mind. They want you to succeed. So
that's great. Tell me the SSS STEM, what program is that?
They reached out to a bunch of students. I just got accepted into the program for Roosevelt a couple of weeks ago. I'm not 100% sure what it all entails, but I know that it's a program that they just started this year for Roosevelt, and they're supposed to be helping with tutoring and advising, long-term career goals, financial literacy, things like that. And then there's also cultural engagement type of things. Like, they sent me an email recently that they were trying to go to the Van Gogh exhibit at the Art Institute. So they just have these opportunities and for us to do and to better ourselves, personally and professionally.
Is that through, I think Kennedy, you're involved as well. Is that through Student Support Services?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm not actually involved with that. I'm a part of the honors program here at Roosevelt University.
Okay, so I saw the STEM. So I saw something with STEM peers that you were involved, but you were just talking STEM just in terms of being a woman in STEM. Wow, we didn't even talk about that. What's it like to be a woman in STEM, Kennedy?
It's intimidating for sure, but I think Roosevelt is a really incredible place because most of my peers are women or identify as women. So it's been a really incredible experience to be at Roosevelt because I'm seeing a lot of women who are pursuing their dreams and working into STEM. But I know my friends who go to other universities, it's hard. They get treated differently by their professors. They get treated as less than. So I'd say I'm really, really lucky to have been able to come here and be in an environment where people want me to succeed and want me to go on and become a professional in my field.
That's great. Rochelle, what's it like to be a woman in STEM?
I agree that it's a lot more challenging, and I believe that I felt like I'm treated differently as well. Not so much here at Roosevelt, but just in the past, just in general. I don't feel that type of different treatment here at all. And it's actually not something that I've even like focused on. It wasn't, nothing has happened where it has drawn my attention to it, but I know that it can be very difficult. And just like working in the medical field a little bit, people still do treat you, especially I feel like provide like physicians. I don't want to say that they talk down on you, but I think it's just like, it's just a little bit more challenging to advance into the health profession field when you're a woman, especially women of color.
Yeah. And I try to be real sensitive because I don't know everybody's background. So I never make assumptions, but I would imagine that being a woman of color, you've got even more challenges, and it sounds like Roosevelt's really been a place where it's not even something like you said that's been brought to your attention, because you just feel such a sense of inclusion and connection and community. Is that right?
Yes. And growing up, my mother and my grandmother have always told me that that's going to be like just a lifelong thing. But I'm glad that I have not had that experience since being at Roosevelt and even Robert Morris and at University of Illinois.
Yeah. You know what? It's wonderful. There's so many, you had great experiences, and it's wonderful to share all those, no matter where they were, because I think anyone, anywhere can see that they can find experiences in lots of places. Jalen, I know that you are so active when it comes to really celebrating your identity, your heritage, all those things that make you, your culture. Can you help us to understand some of the places at Roosevelt where other women who identify in similar ways as you can find connection and community, and not just women, really anybody?
Yes. So as you did mention, being a woman in STEM is one thing, but being a woman of color in STEM is different because we do cross more hurdles. So I did encounter about a couple of situations at Roosevelt where I was affected by being a woman of color in STEM, to the point where I brought up to my dean. So the first time, I guess you can say, is when I remember I was taking a pre-cal class, and it was my first joint Chem 1 exam score. And I had a Caucasian classmate, that made me repeat my score 3 times to her because she couldn't believe I scored so well, or I think we scored around the same range. To me, I wondered, why are you asking me 3 times for my score? Is it because of the way I look? Like, why is this happening? The second time, I remember we were in our biology lab, and there was a Caucasian classmate of mine in front of me that was asking for a pen. We were face to face, like across from each other. I was like, I have a pen, you can borrow it. And I reached out my hand, and she just looked at me and she looked away. And to me, that was like, okay, I'm never gonna ask for my help no more. It's you then, It was very frustrating feeling like that, because what is wrong with me? Why can't you just accept I'm in the same chair, I'm in the same room as you are? There's nothing wrong with that. The third time I want to say was when I was my pre-health science club. It was the moment where I decided I don't want to be in this environment, right, at Roosevelt. The pre-health science club was mostly with Caucasian students that lived in their dorms at Roosevelt, which is good for them. But I just didn't feel welcomed. I didn't feel like I belonged there. There wasn't students that commuted. There wasn't students that looked like me in the room. So that's when I established Latin Med Allies. Latin Med Allies is a club I established for people that do look like me and allies. So you don't have to be a person of color, student of color, but it is a community. It's a community where you really are able to see people that look like you as your guest speakers. So we bring in doctors, nurses, medical students, nursing students, all different fields. We bring them there as guest speakers. And we also have field trips. And this semester coming up, we plan on approaching the 5 pillars of a professional program, which is volunteerism, community service, leadership, and clinical experience. So we're going to try our best to just hit those 5 pillars along our club members. But yeah, being a woman of color in STEM is really, really hard. I don't even think I'm a woman of color in STEM because I'm not working in labs or doing much of that, but just being there, those occasions happening to me, those situations happening to me, I brought that up with my dean, and my dean did take action of it. Dr. Kelly Watts Hunter, she supports Latin Med Allies so much. And also another moment I forgot was the Women in STEM Day that Roosevelt presented. It was the poster was all women of color, different backgrounds. There you see different colors, so like very diverse, a very diverse poster, but not a single diverse woman was in the panel. So it was all Caucasian women. And to me, that was just, it was again frustrating. So I was like, why are you presenting something that it doesn't portray that it's truly a woman instead of color? Because I thought there was gonna be at least one person of color, one woman of color, but there was nothing. So that was pretty frustrating.
So let me just make sure it's clear, because I want to make sure that we get this. So you started Latin Med and Allies.
Yes.
And how long ago did you start that organization?
It was 2020, so spring 2020.
And the goal of the organization is to do what?
It's to allow our pre-med students of color and allies to believe in themselves and find this safety space for them to just come in and, I guess you can say, believe that they will make it in the medical field, even though there's not many people that look like us and many people that probably don't even believe in us and are probably mad that we're in the same room as them. So yes.
That's wonderful. So it's been supported and embraced by the Roosevelt community.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's great. Well, you're an advocate. You're doing so much. And I'm sure anyone who's part of the program will meet you and get to know you. And if anybody has a question who identifies with any of you, are you comfortable with people reaching out to you and asking you questions and interacting with them? Is that cool? It's not weird if someone reaches out, right? No, that's okay. I have just two more questions and we're going to wrap up, and I'm going to really be respectful of your time. But Jalen, I'm just fascinated. You're a first generation student. You studied in the tutoring center. You instantly asked for help. And from what I've seen, so many first gen students aren't great at asking for help. They feel like it's a sign of weakness as opposed to a sign of strength. How are you able to ask for help and advocate for yourself the way you do it?
I'm very impulsive sometimes in doing things. I'm very just go for it. What's the worst that can happen? Right. So I feel like if I don't ask for help, who's going to really help me get to where I want in life? Recently, I'm launching a program, a pre-med boot camp program with Rush. And again, that program is because I asked for help. I asked, how can I help my community? How can I actually find some kind of support system for the people that come be after me? So without asking for help, I don't think I will be wherever I am in life right now. Currently, I'm studying for the MCAT. It's the hardest exam I can probably ever take, but asking for help, like I have been asking for help, looking for resources, it's going to get me the MCAT score I want and will get me into the doors of a medical school.
That's exciting. I'm so pumped to be on the journey and to just kind of be a passenger as you all continue charging forward, because it's incredibly exciting, and each of you have a really unique story, and I love that Roosevelt's a common thread. The thing you love most about Roosevelt, I'll do a speed round, like just really fast. Adolfo, the thing you love most about Roosevelt.
Diversity.
Jalen, what's the thing you love most?
The support system. They hear you. They advocate for you.
Rochelle, what about you?
A sense of community.
Kennedy, what about you?
I'm going to echo Rochelle. It's the community.
You feel a sense of belonging?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I know that's something you were craving.
Definitely, yeah.
Your whole life, it sounds like.
Yeah, I really was, I think.
Yeah, and you found it. I have one last question for you. Before I ask that, you're all welcome. If there's anything you wanted to share that I didn't address that you think is really important for someone to know, or for somebody out there who's in middle school, who's in high school, or who's contemplating making a change or is in a crossroad in their lives. Is there anything else you wanted to share before I ask you my final question, or clear up anything you stated before that you want to clear up? Are we good? Okay. I always want to give you the floor to be able to do that. So if you could go back in time, Adolfo, if you can go all the way back to Thomas Kelly High School. Where's Thomas Kelly High School?
In Chicago and Archer in California.
Nice. All right. So you get to go back to Thomas Kelly, and you get to current day you gets to meet freshman Adolfo, ninth grade Adolfo. And you're walking through the halls, and somehow you get through security, Adolfo. And you get to see you. What would you say to ninth grade Adolfo?
That you're going to be a phoenix that rises out of the ashes. and don't give up.
All right, Rochelle, you get to go back to Thornton Fractional South. It's the name of your school, right?
Yes.
Just flows. Thornton Fractional South. What was your mascot?
It was, so it's a little controversial. His name was Richie Rebel.
Okay.
So there's like this whole thing going on, but I won't get into that.
All right, well, we won't get into that. I was thinking it was like fractions but there should be, but I should know. Or Thornton Fractional. Maybe that's the name of someone. I don't know. Anyway, showing my ignorance here when it comes to the name. So, Rochelle, you're back at Thornton Fractional High School, and you see yourself, freshman you, ninth grade you, Rochelle. What do you tell you?
Take the time to like find yourself, figure out what you want to do. And other than that, I don't think that I would change anything because I wouldn't be the person that I am today if I went back and changed anything.
Jalen, if you could go back in time, if you could go to DeVry University Advantage. Oh no, that's wrong. That was 11th and 12th grade. You got to go back to Prosser Career Academy, right? I'm sorry, we got to take you back there. I know it wasn't your favorite place. You get to ninth grade you, and Jalen, what would you tell ninth grade you?
I would tell ninth grade me to continue pushing, to not be afraid to ask for help, and understand that imposter syndrome is always going to be there. Probably even one day as an attending, it's always going to be there. But you have to really look at the other side. Like, what are you changing now? What can you do better? And how can you actually improve yourself so others can come after so there's like actually come after you will do the same or even better. So one solid thing is honestly, do not give up. Even if it may seem impossible, just know that without help, you can't make it out here. You were not born with resources or privilege. You were not born in a suburban home with your dad super rich or your mom's super rich. You have to fight for what you want. So yes, that's what I would tell myself.
Yeah, well, you get all pumped up, get yourself all motivated, right? I got fired up for ninth grade you, and you have to make this promise that when you're in attending, when you're in this place, like, I'm going to do these. We're going to do these.
Sure.
We're going to get you, Jalen. I'm not making this up. Like, for all of you, like I'm doing this for a long time, and you know what? Like, let's do videos where we get you in every classroom, right? Where someone can see you and know that anything is possible, and that you are deserving and worthy, and everyone is. Like, that's the mission, right? To like do that, and we could do that now because of technology in ways that we can never do before. So I'm going to depend on you to help me, because I can only say it so much, but you are it. I mean, all of you are it. Like you all are, and it's really wonderful. It's a privilege to have the chance to visit with you all. Kennedy, if you could go back in time, and you were back at Canelan High School, right? Canelan High School, and you get to see ninth grade Kennedy, what would you tell ninth grade you?
I would tell myself first that it's going to be okay. Everything that's happening right now, it will pass. Everything that seems like the world's going to fall apart any second, it's not. You're going to be okay. And I would also tell myself to not be so afraid. I was so afraid of asking for help. I was so afraid of not being right. And it's okay to be wrong. And it's okay to ask for help. And it's okay to put yourself out there, even if it doesn't turn out.
Yeah. It sounds like a lot happened during those years.
Yeah.
A lot.
Very, very much.
Right.
And to anyone else, it's going to be okay. When you're in high school, you feel like everything that's happening is all that your life is going to be. What's happening right now is going to be the rest of your future. And it doesn't have to be.
Yeah. And we could do a part 2 where we can get deeper into like some of those specifics, because they just take up so much time and energy and emotion. And all of you are so wonderful. And I know that, time is something you don't have a lot of because you're all so busy. And thanks for being so generous and giving us all of this time and allowing us into your lives. If anybody has questions for anyone here, for Adolfo, Kennedy, Rochelle, Jalen, just reach out to them. Like, this is why they do this. They want to help. They want to support you. And as you all continue to dream and go after your goals, it's exciting to know that you're all in each other's corner. And Adolfo, I'm going to reach out to you next year, and I'll even send, if anyone wants, I'll tell you, I got another book. I don't even want to mention it because I don't want to look like I'm promoting anything, but I'll send you stuff. I just want you all to be so happy and have so much love and light in your lives, and to help others along the way. So on behalf of all of you and Roosevelt University, I'm grateful to be here. I'm Harlan Cohen. This has been another college conversation. And as always, I look forward to being in your corner. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for being here. Thanks, panelists. Thanks, everybody. You're the best.